know is that it's still going up. Here we are, nearly at the end of February, and active listings are still going up. In a good year, where the market is hot, active listings peak in the second week of January and then start going down, because there is enough demand to soak up the new supply. That's more buyers come out. So this is another indicator that this is going to be a weak year. Not necessarily disastrous, but below par. If you focus on the 200 to 400 price range, which is kind of one of the most popular price ranges, it's even more impressive. The growth in supply is up to nearly 9,000, and in the middle of 2012 we only had 3,000. So there's 3 times as many homes and fewer buyers. So this particular sector of the market feels dramatically different. And the important part of this is where the new home buyers tend to focus, and the new home construction companies tend to focus. So we actually have more supply now than we had in those bad old days at the beginning of 2011 in this price range. Another thing I like to watch, this makes for a very complicated and colourful chart, but this is a price change chart. Each block on here is 1 day. So at the beginning of last year there were 121 price drops on that day. There's another chart for price increases, by the way, and you'll notice that here we're seeing, as we go through time, the number of price drops gets larger. The last 2 weeks actually been over the 3,000 mark, so we're starting to reach more and more people dropping their prices. These are asking prices, not sale prices. And I watch this on a daily basis to see whether price drops are becoming more and more prevalent right now, or a lot of sellers choosing to drop their price. Again, another symptom of a weaker market. Cumulative days on market, this is a long-term chart, has been coming in a sort of downward trend for a long time, but it's starting to spike up. Again, another one you can use to warn yourselves. If you're dying for some good news chart, good news for sellers is, see, although there are fewer listings under contract, the pricing for them is still going up. The average price per square foot for listings under contract is $131. And you'll notice it's still going up, even in the last few years. However, I would caution you not to get too excited about that, because one of the reasons is the strength in the luxury market over the down market means that it's those luxury homes that are very often the ones that are under contract, and they tend to push price per square foot, because a smart new home in Paradise Valley is going for $400 a square foot. You put 2 more of those in and this average gets bumped up. So don't get too excited about that. When you want to take the luxury homes out of their picture, the best thing is to look at median sale prices, because they tend to ignore the luxury market. And you can see the message there is that we've really flattened out at about 105 and just recently dipped down to 180,000 in terms of the median. So although we've had a very strong recovery, we've lost all of the upwards momentum, and there's a slight downward movement starting to develop there when you take the luxury homes out of the equation. Oh, plenty of pessimistic charts to depress your sellers and get them realistic. I want to make a point here about what will be in the headlines 6 months from now. Because right now we're looking at, although the median sales price is 180, the good news that everyone's focusing on is how much higher it is than last year. Right? Because last year it was like 155,000. So 180 and 155, that's a big improvement. But if we carry on where we are at 180, we just stay flat for another 4 months, we will be below where we were last year. And the whole mindset will change. We'll suddenly have negative appreciation instead of positive. So this is not actually a big mathematical issue, it's a perception issue. Because people will think plus 16 now, in 4 months' time, they'll suddenly think minus 3, even though prices have not changed in 4 months. That's what they're going to think. And it's possible the prices might go down a bit, bills might go up a bit, I mean, who knows? But more likely down than up. And I wanted to say a little bit about new homes, because they're still a small part of the market, but they are growing, at least they have been growing for the last year. They're to 15% of sales, but there would normally be about 25% of sales in a typical market. So they haven't really fully recovered yet. The trend has been generally positive over the last 2 years. Back in January of 2011, only 310 new homes. That was kind of an all-time low. We had a pretty good December at 929, but January was pretty awful. 560 was way below expectation. And you'll notice in all of the builders' releases over the last month, they've all blamed the bad weather. We had any bad weather? In fact, we didn't have any rain at all. We might snow. So you can't blame that on the bad weather. And anything you read about bad weather affecting the market, I will take with a grain of salt. Especially as the West had the biggest decline in new home numbers, and the Northeast had the biggest improvement. And most of that weather was in the Northeast, so makes no sense, like excuse. Anyway, let's look at the longer term picture. That last chart we saw is this little corner over here, where we got up to 929. Even that is pathetic compared with where we should be if we go back to normal. We normally were doing, back in 1999, 2,500 homes a month new. And we were filling them up. They weren't being left empty. That was what was happening in this period when we were building far too many. So another reason for the collapse. But back then, those were getting filled up. And although we haven't got quite the same population increase now as we had back then, it is definitely positive. We get about 60,000 new inhabitants net to central Arizona in a year. We were doing more like 90,000 back in 1999, but 60,000 is managing to fit in far fewer homes than we normally would. So again, there's this sharing going on, which is driving occupancy down. So, outlook before we get into the question time. The short-term supply is growing faster than demand, so prices are down pressure and buyers have significant negotiation power. I wouldn't have been saying that 6 months ago, so the market's changed a lot. Rental rates are likely to increase mainly in the popular areas, which tend to be closer to the employment. Not necessarily the case in the outer areas, very distant. They're probably still going to be quite weak. This household formation question is a big issue, and if many people are saying, many economists are saying that has to go back to the long-term average of about 1 million, 1.2 million a year. And when it does, we won't build enough homes. We'll have a shortage. The question is, when is it going to do that? When are the millennials going to say, okay, I've had enough time being a teenager, I'm 37 now, time to get out of family and buy a house, do what we're going to do. Maybe it will never happen, but everyone's kind of assuming that they will behave like their parents at one point. The question is when. I mean, I know my generation, we got driving licenses as soon as we can, we got a car as soon as we can. I've got a son who's turning 22 and he hasn't even got a driver's license yet. What's going on? I took him to get a permit, but it expired before he got the full license. I look around and there are lots of people of similar age doing the same stuff. What's going on? They just don't behave like we do. And the luxury market, that's very susceptible to the stock market. So we had a scary January and then a recovery in February, so nobody knows where it's going now. If the stock market continues to have a good year, then the luxury market will also have a pretty good year. Not as good as last year, though. I think what I'm seeing is demand is holding up quite nicely in the luxury market, but more and more listings are coming out, and we're starting to have a bit of excess. There's now more than a year's supply in Paradise Valley, when we only had about 6 or 7 months in the middle of last year. And of course, the last point is a truism, and it's not really saying that lenders are doing bad stuff, it's just saying if lenders actually decided to lend to people with lower credit scores, there will be more home sales. That's obviously true. Most lenders are being very picky and only choosing those people with really good credit. They're also tending to prefer people who want to borrow more money. So a jumbo loan is actually easier to qualify good fun. So we have an unusual situation, and it won't last. You know, all of these things come in cycles, and the current phase will change at some point, and I don't know exactly when. It's just a question of watching the space and reporting on it, and that's my job really, is to try and let you know when things change. By the way, if you want to follow what